I I found this rotten brioche. Maybe I should put this in the bin.
Hello and welcome to the Most Dangerous podcast. How are you, Fraser?
I'm shite, to be honest.
How are you, really?
Yeah, just rough, stressful week, tired.
Oh, no.
Packing to go and to spend the weekend in Lancaster at a cheerleading competition.
I didn't know you were into cheerleading.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not the one that's into cheerleading. I'm the one that's dragged there to basically run about after Teddy for 2 days while the three girls, Madison, Erin and Mara, they do their cheerleading.
That's a shame.
It's one of the...
I was kind of hoping that you'd be into it.
No.
You could tell me all about it.
It's like, I mean, you must have gone to school plays and stuff like that, and you kind of go and you endure it to see your kid for a couple of minutes. And this cheerleading is a fucking nightmare because basically you've got to register at 7:30 in the morning, so you've got to be there all dressed and everything. So that means up at 5:30 to get them in all the gear and everything. And from registration, they could be called up anytime. So you can't go for a piss. Because you could go for a piss, come back, and they've been on and off, and it's done. And you've missed them.
And that's your day.
You've missed their like minute and a half. Yeah. You know, and generally what happened last time is every time we kind of thought they were about to come on, Teddy needed a poo or something, you know. And it's just like, it's like you want their bit to be done, and then you can just relax then for the day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, but we've got 3 kids in 8 different things, so I won't get to relax at all.
Yeah, well, you won't miss anything because at some point you'll see something at least if there's that many kids doing that many things.
Aye.
So I'm not in a good way either. I fell over this week.
You fell over? Oh,
I fell over, like full on face plant onto the floor.
Shit.
Just tripped over. I think I'm not sure if I've broke a rib, but I think I've cracked one maybe.
Fucking hell.
So I'm struggling to sort of breathe. I was in bed for a few days because I couldn't get my trousers on. I couldn't bend over to pull them up. So if I sound a bit lethargic today, it's because I'm kind of like, every time I take a breath, it's agony.
It's amazing because as we've mentioned, I broke my hand nearly 4 weeks ago because I fell over. And falling over is getting to be more of an ordeal than it used to be.
It is. I phoned into work on Monday. I went back today, but I phoned in on Monday and I just said to my boss or the office manager or whatever, I was like, I've had a fall. Oh, don't, still hurts.
Can I ask how you fell?
I just tripped over a curb.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So as I say, I'm a bit I can't even sit in my chair properly at the moment. So no laughing on this podcast. We're not allowed to laugh today because it hurts too much.
I'll be honest, I'm really intrigued because you've sent me 2 pictures to put on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I can't work out what they are. The first one reminds me of Carl Pilkington when he did the first ever bungee jump. When it was like a big tall structure with like vines and stuff.
Right.
But I don't think that's it. So I'm really intrigued about what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, well, all will be revealed very soon. But first of all, I think we've got some dangerous news.
That's what I was waiting for. You do that bit better than me. So dangerous news, yeah. So I only found 2 stories that I thought were interesting this week. There was a lot of weird news, but nothing that really sort of grabbed me. So I stole one of the stories I sent you last week that you deemed not good enough for yourself.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I'm going to start with that.
Scraping the barrel.
Scraping the barrel. No, I thought it was a really interesting story. But obviously you found better stuff with your penguins and stuff. This story is about a man that made a beef Wellington whilst driving his car and posted it on YouTube.
That sounds almost impossible.
Yeah, do you know what it reminds me? There's I obviously watched too many Simpsons episodes. There's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer's trying to make fondue in the car, and it goes over a speed bump and it goes all over
everywhere. There's also a guy on X or Twitter, as it was formerly known, who cooks things in like bathroom sinks.
Oh right.
And he's a fucking idiot, to be honest. But like I've seen him do stuff in a plane, like cook like noodles and stuff in like the sink in the plane toilet. It's just weird. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, there's a TikToker known as Haggis, and he's like just basically like a real life Ramsay Nesbitt, and he makes like fry ups in the toaster. You know them little toaster bags, and put like mince, eggs, and cheese in a cellophane bag, put it in his kettle, and boil the kettle, and pour it out. And it makes like really rank stuff.
Yeah, none of it looks appealing. It's like, what is the point?
I followed him for a while, but bless him, he had a heart attack last month. I mean, no shit. Wonder, but
yeah.
Anyway, so this chap, he's an unidentified chap because he probably, if he put his name on it, the police would probably be chapping at his door. But it starts with him with a chopping board in the passenger seat, and he makes a full beef Wellington, slices button mushrooms, and lays out the bacon. You know, he actually has a cooker with a little frying pan, sauteing the mushrooms and onions.
Well, that's it. How does he cook it? Like one of these sort of mini grills that's got, for some bizarre reason, like a cigarette. You know, the cigarette chargers.
That's it. He's got like little kind of camping.
I never understood that. I've got a fridge. Well, it's like a little mini fridge. It fits about 4 tinnies in.
Yeah,
and you can have it on hot and cold.
Oh, right.
A shelf in it. So like a pasty in there to keep that doesn't cook it, but keeps it warm.
Yeah.
One of the attachments for it is like, you know, the cigarette charger port things in your car.
Oh.
So like, I don't know, like just keep your pasty warm while you're going for a drive. So yeah, like, you know, he's got this one of these an oven like that, has he?
Well, he finished it off in an air fryer. Now, my car, as you know, we've discussed, I've got 5 children, so I drive a Seat Alhambra, big
minibus
beast of a car. It has actually got a 240 volt socket in it, my car. So you can, which is quite handy because you can plug your laptop in.
Yeah.
You know, trying to rely on USB and stuff. So that was a wee.
Just in case you'd want to watch YouTube while you're driving.
Yeah.
I saw some guy once. It's not relevant, but like he had his phone. You know, he had his phone in one of the holders.
Oh yeah.
You get like for your sat nav or whatever. You put your phone.
Oh, yeah.
He was driving along, and like on his phone was like Sky Sports. He was watching the football.
Oh, I've watched the football on my dashboard. Yeah.
I don't think that's legal, is it?
No, you're not allowed to. There's a little patch, my Google Drive thing on the screen on my car dashboard. There is a little patch you can get, and it costs about 60 quid. You can unlock Netflix and Disney Plus, and it basically just turns it into an Android phone, so you can watch anything on it. But I've never really got the time. I've sat my phone on my dashboard if I've had to go and pick the girls up, and there's been
I can get it if you're parked up somewhere. You can just throw it on, but driving along, you know.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
So my second story, James, I'm going to read you the headline. Fears new Surrey gimp on the loose as man in very see-through tights flashes dog walker.
It's, you know, there's no thought gone into that. That's just exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah. But what worries me is that the headline is, and the story continues, a new Surrey gimp may be walking the streets after a dog walker says they were flashed by a man wearing very see-through women's tights and a black balaclava. But it's the fact it says a new Surrey gimp.
I know,
and what happened to the old gimp?
I do remember the original gimp, actually.
Oh, do you?
I think he got arrested. He definitely got community service. Yeah, there's a gimp going around here. I remember that.
Bloody hell. I mean, imagine living somewhere where you go, no, there's another fucking gimp on the streets.
Not another one.
But yeah, the new Surrey gimp, an anonymous dog walker says an individual wearing a black balaclava and very see-through women's tights exposed themselves on Balcombe Road, Surrey. Police have been made aware of the incident where a man was chased by the gimp. Imagine coming home from walking the dog. How was the walk? Oh, we got chased by a gimp.
Yeah, I'm sure the original gimp had the proper clobber though. He had
Yeah,
the proper
yeah.
gimp mask. So
This guy's
balaclava.
just in a balaclava and tights. This is a bit shit.
Yeah, that's a rip-off.
So, James, yeah, on to the last story, because I don't think I want to talk about the gimp anymore, but
No,
it was the fact that, Surrey, I didn't know Surrey had an original gimp, so maybe it wouldn't have been as interesting.
Yeah,
to me.
it sounds like it's got a gimp problem.
Yeah. That'll be, you can imagine like a Sim City scenario. Remember, Bern had traffic, and was it Boston had crime?
Oh, right. Oh, that was a long time. That was the
Yeah.
first one, wasn't it? It's the scenarios, yeah.
Scenarios, yeah. Sorry, gimps. Try and wipe out the gimp community in this city. Now, this one, I want to actually just read you the whole news report, because it gets more unbelievable as we go along. Overturned truck releases thousands of bees onto the highway. So this was just 2 days ago, March the 19th. Beekeepers were summoned to a Mississippi highway to round up thousands of bees when an 18-wheeler hauling their hives overturned. Right, to round up bees. Right, that sounds quite tricky. The Adams County Emergency Management Agency said the truck overturned Saturday night on Highway 61 in front of Merit Health in Natchez. Beekeepers from Madee Honey Farms in Woodville were summoned to the scene to help round up the bees that swarmed around the overturned truck. Adams County Director Bradford.
Brad Bradford, that's a good name.
Brad Bradford said the scene was not cleared until 7 a.m. Monday. They were up all night trying to round up the bees.
Catching bees.
This was my first bee catastrophe, he told WLBT TV.
Catastrophe.
Right, here we go. He said the bees remained calm during the incident because it was after dark and their hives were covered in a tarp. It's good that the bees weren't panicking.
That's, I mean, if they were angry bees.
Yeah, true.
More of a problem. And this is the second time in as many weeks where bees feature in the news.
Well, I know, because if I actually scroll down, because I'm reading this from my phone, it actually links to the story you told about the bees in transport. Yeah,
bees everywhere. Good bees, though, aren't they?
They are. I watched. I got addicted to these YouTube videos of this woman that basically goes when someone's got a beehive, and she goes and takes like a portable hive and lifts up their floorboards or wherever these bees are living in the house. She literally just scoops big bundles of them out with her hand.
Yeah, I think I might see that. I spend too much time on the internet, mate.
I know, yeah. But she like hunts about until she gets the queen. So she then puts the queen in like a little trap and then puts it in the new hive. And the bees just all migrate to the new hive to follow the queen. But she scoops them up and doesn't get stung. And apparently, bees are actually quite friendly. You have to really threaten them. They don't want to, yeah.
Yeah, if they sting you, they die. I had a taxi driver once who was a beekeeper, and he was telling me all about him. It's quite interesting. I was in the taxi for about 10 minutes just going on about beekeeping. It was dead interesting. It was weird, just the most random thing.
Yeah, tell you what, mate, just take the long route,
Yeah. You ever heard about bees? And no, apparently, like if the hive gets too full, like they'll swarm. And like loads of them will just fuck off and go and build another hive, and like they'll like nominate a queen and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of like it's quite like I would say civilized, but I think they kill each other and stuff. But I mean, that's the humans do that as well, though, don't they?
Yeah, I've heard that they can get like pissed, and they actually have like bees that keep the peace, and if bees are being troublemakers, they eject them from the hive and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like a hierarchy and stuff.
Yeah.
And soldier bees and stuff.
And ant colonies, they actually have a graveyard where they take the dead ones and put them all in this little pile in like a little zone in the colony.
And they eat their brains.
Yeah, learned that at Chester Zoo. I've just wiped out a load of ants in our house with some of those bait station things, because as much as I quite like insects, they were crawling all over the food,
Yeah, I don't mind them. I just didn't not in my house.
Yeah.
There's a place for me and there's a place for you.
That's it. Yeah, the bee sting's a bit of a daft one. That's like someone saying, "I'll give you a gun to protect yourself, but a bullet also shoots out the back
Yeah,
when you pull the
yeah.
trigger." It's
The
like,
only way you can protect yourself is by shooting yourself in the head.
yeah, it's a bit daft. So that was my news. I've had a troublesome week, so I'm sorry it was a bit shorter, but
No, that's fine. It's all good stuff. Inform the listeners. That's the aim of the game.
you know the listeners just want to know what you've got to talk about tonight because I'm intrigued.
Yeah, the listener.
The listener, yeah. That's more than one. So
Is it?
yeah.
All right, that's good then. Cool. Okay then. So on to the main event, I suppose.
Excellent.
So this week I'm going to be talking to you about a very dangerous sea voyage. Do you know anything about sea voyages? Not the Titanic. This is about a ship. They call it a ship.
Okay.
Called the Medusa.
The Medusa.
Yeah, no, it's a French ship. So
Mhm.
I think we'll call it the Medusa for English purposes.
Okay.
I think in French it's probably like Meduse or something like that.
Right. Okay.
So this is a ship that set sailed from France to Senegal in 1816. So Senegal at the time,
Mhm.
it was kind of there was sort of wars and stuff between England and Senegal. England and France,
Mhm.
because it was like kind of a shipping lane between Europe and Africa. So they'd sort of
Right.
all the spices and the goods and stuff would go from Senegal to Spain. But at that time, I think there'd been some sort of treaty that England and France had signed, and France were just about to sort of move in to colonise the area.
Right.
And this ship, the Medusa, was part of that process. So it was a well-renowned ship. It was modern, up to date for the time. Huge ship. It had been sort of in battles previously and stuff. It was a super ship. The captain of this ship that set sail in June 1816, it was called Hugh Duroy de Chamaraise. Okay, so he was a French chap. Yes, he was a bit of a character, and you'll probably come to see he was a bit of a dickhead as well.
Sounds French.
Now, in all honesty, he probably shouldn't have been captain of this ship at the time, because he'd not sailed for 25 years previously. The last time he'd been a captain and sailed was in the American Revolution. So in the American Revolution, I think the French helped the Americans a little bit to try and sort of get the English out and stuff. So he was a captain in battleships then. But the only reason he became captain of this ship, the Medusa, was because he was friends with the newly restored monarch. So, as everybody knows the history, the French had a revolution, got rid of the monarchy, realised that the republic didn't work, and then they reinstated the monarchy. So, yeah, and this chap, we'll call him Captain Hugh, just for ease of reference. So he was friends with the king and the monarchy. There was this big voyage off to Senegal to colonise it all, and the king just basically went, yeah, "Go on, you can be captain. It's fine."
Gives a job, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So the ship itself was to set sail from Rochefort in France to Saint Louis in Senegal. It started on the 17th of June, 1816. As I say, the ship itself, the Medusa, had recently been refurbed. It was a battleship, as I mentioned, but in the process of this refurb, they took out some of the cannons, and this was just to make way for provisions. Soldiers were going over in the voyage because they were going to build up like forts and stuff over there. And then we just get the cannons out, put the people in, we'll send it across. It was, as I say, it was a very well-to-do ship, and on board there was loads of senior politicians and stuff, and there was a chap on there who was going over to be the governor of Senegal. Now he was called Governor Schmaltz. Yeah, I don't know how. I've just kind of sort of spelt it out phonetically in my notes, but that's definitely what it's called. Schmaltz.
Sounds German.
I don't know where he was from. And then there was a few other stately people, well-to-do, rich folk, and all the rest of it, off to start their new lives in this brand new, wonderful land. So the Medusa set off. It was one of 4 ships.
Mhm.
There was like a convoy. There was one called the Laurier, the Argus, and the Echo. But the Medusa was the biggest and the fastest and the best. So on board the Medusa there were about 400 people. About 3/4 of them were soldiers, navy men, and then the rest were passengers.
Right. Would they be like passengers that have just paid to go to Senegal?
Yeah,
Like,
just
yeah,
just new opportunity in a far
yeah,
off
yeah.
land. Do you want to go and do it? So yeah, so
There's a little bit of me that looks back at in these sorts of times, and I'm really sort of jealous with a sense of adventure that was about, because nowadays everyone's been everywhere and done everything and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Can you imagine, like, as a young man or woman setting sail to another land? What's this land going to be like?
yeah. I mean, like the American frontier thing interests me. The sort of the Oregon Trail. I mean, that
Yeah.
was pretty bad, but yeah, stuff like that. You could just kind of, well, if you go there, we'll give you a free plot of land that you can do whatever you want with.
Yeah. There was the
It's just kind of
gold
way,
rush as well.
yeah, yeah. It was just a way of getting people to colonize the
Mhm.
areas, I suppose.
At the same time, you were scared you got, toothache or something.
Dysentery.
Yeah, just like, there was a lot of downsides to those times as well. They didn't
Yeah, yeah.
have
Well, that's it.
paracetamol and aspirin in little boxes, did they?
Yeah, the risk and the reward, I suppose.
Mhm.
So you get
Aye,
loads of free, go there, get loads of free land, but you might die on the way. So it's
yeah.
up to you. So yeah, so there's about 400 people on this ship, the Medusa. Obviously, there's more people on the other ships, but
Yeah.
this is the big one.
Okay.
For most of the journey, everything was going fine. There was one incident where a 15-year-old sailor went overboard, and he was never seen again. I mean, at the time, Captain Hugh was criticised because he didn't act very quickly.
Right.
It was like, "Oh, man overboard." He's like, "Oh, dithering about,
Get
what do
him
we
in the
do?"
morning.
Yeah, exactly. And then before you know, the Medusa's like a really fast ship as well, so it just kind of
Right.
it was going really fast at the time. He falls overboard. Apparently, I was reading like the ship, the Echo was quite fast as well, and this was
Mhm.
behind the Medusa.
Ah.
But by the time Captain Hugh raised the alarm to the Echo to say, "Oh, we've had a man
Mhm.
overboard," it was too late, and the Echo didn't. The Echo didn't realise, and this 15-year-old lad, you know, Davy Jones's locker, I suppose.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was all going well apart from that sort of minor incident. I mean, I guess it kind of happened quite a lot in those days.
Yeah. It was probably minor then.
Yeah, I mean, if it happened these days, it'd be like, if you fell off a cruise ship,
Yeah.
like that cruise, that company would just be shut down. Whereas here,
Yeah.
it's like, another one. So the ships sort of sailed round through, like Gibraltar and then to the Canaries. So by the time that they reached the Canary Islands, the convoy had split up because the Medusa was so fast. Um, so they were all sort of in different parts, sort of trying to get round to Senegal. If you think about Africa in your mind, it's kind of like a sort of juts out a little bit, and Senegal's just sort of underneath. So yeah, so by the time they reach the Canaries, they've all split up. They're in different parts of the ocean. It's not really uncommon for this to happen. Obviously, some ships are faster than others. It depends on the weather and things like that. So yeah, I mean, what usually people would just go, look, we all know where we're going and we all know how we're getting there, so we'll just see you when we get there. Yeah. The problem with the Medusa though is that their navigational charts were off, not by much, but very very slightly off. And the problem is when you say, I'm not an expert, I've never sailed in my life, but from what I've read, even just the slightest of degree can just put you off course by like a stupid amount. It's got to be sort of spot on. Like the other crew, so I mentioned before there were soldiers and sailors, like Navy men on the ship. So they started to realise that as the ship was coming round the side of Africa, it was kind of getting closer and closer and closer to the shore. And they did mention it to Captain Hugh, but like I say, he was a bit of an arsehole, and he was like, "Nah, it's fine. I know what I'm doing. I've been a sailor for years, blah blah blah." And they had to agree to what he was saying because at that time, if you're refusing a direct order, it was a hangable offence. So it's like, okay, well, shift the sail this way by a certain amount, and they're all going, fucking hell, we're gonna like hit the rock there. What, captain? No, do as I say, type thing. So they just had to do what they were told. So as the ship approached Senegal, it drifted into a stretch of water called the Arguin Bank. Okay, so this is a well-known strip of water. Not for us, obviously. You've probably never heard of it. I hadn't. But apparently it's well known because it's known to be really shallow. Okay, so it's like good for shipping, but it's not good for big galleons and ships and stuff like that. So as the ship Medusa drifted round the sort of land, it did start to drift into this bank of water. And then the crew started to notice the water once was a deep blue. Now it's kind of going a sort of greeny colour. More seaweed starting to become visible around the side of the boat, and they could see more fish. At this point, then Captain Hugh, the crew were kind of going, "Come on, mate, really? Like this is going terribly wrong. You've got to change course. We've got to get back out into the deep sea." So Captain Hugh does eventually decide to change direction, but it was too late. Of course, it was. And then on the 2nd of July, the Medusa ran onto a sandbank, and it became stuck 50 kilometres or about 30 miles off the coast. So initially there was a bit of panic. It's probably a bit like one of those, like particularly with the general public or whatever. You know, when like something kind of happens at school or whatever, you go, "Ooh, yeah, it's a bit exciting, what's going on?" A bit of panic, but then everyone kind of just went, "Oh, we're all right. We can almost see the land from here.
Yeah.
It's not too far. We'll figure it out."
Yeah, just roll your trousers up and walk.
Yeah, and we'll get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't think they realised how fucked they actually were, to be honest.
I'll be honest, I'm just looking on a map. I can see this bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, because I know a guy called Libor that owns a bit of land in Gambia, which is like inside Senegal almost. Senegal is above and below the Gambia. It's like a little strip in the middle of Senegal. And I remember that he told me a story. He had a big ship, big boat there, and the pirates stole it.
Yeah.
But apparently they got stuck in the low tide on this. He told me a story that he got stuck on this bank, and
do you think it was this one?
it must have been because it's the same sort of area. He said, obviously they weren't aware, or
that's interesting. It's pretty notorious from what I read. I watched a few videos
because they just abandoned it, and he got his boat back. Libor is one of these guys. He turns up, and I'm like, "How are you this week, Libor?" And he's like, "Oh, a pirate stole my boat." And another one, he goes, this land he had in the Gambia, he had this little security guy that just lived on the land to make sure it was okay. And yes, my security guy got shot. And
he stole my boat. My security guy got shot.
Yeah, but that was a different incident. That was because his security guy was a witch doctor, and the local pharmacy shot him. Also, he's got a big hotel in the Czech Republic in Bohemia, and one year I was like, "Oh, Libor, how you doing?" "Oh, I had to kill all my sheep." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "I couldn't get anyone to look after my sheep in the winter, so I had to kill them all. They're all in the freezer now." Just like every time there's this mad story.
So here we are. Imagine this massive ship just stuck in the water, right? Everyone's kind of going, "Oh, bloody hell, what do we do now?" So the crew, they waited till high tide to see how high the water would get, to see if they could do something about it. At high tide, the water was about 16 metres. So, I mean, it's only going to get shallower from that point. So there's no way the ship in its current position could be moved. Captain Hugh just didn't have a clue what to do. He was pretty useless here. He just kind of went quiet, just sort of, "There's nothing to do with me," like, you know. So he just kind of went into a shell. Didn't suggest any good ideas or anything like that. I mentioned Governor Schmaltz before, so he basically just took control of the ship. Said to Captain Hugh, "You're really useless. I'm taking over here. I'm the governor of Senegal. I'm taking control. What they started to do was throw items overboard just to try and sort of lighten the load a little bit, and maybe give it a bit more buoyancy. But all the items they threw over just weren't enough to lift the ship enough. The crew suggested, well, I mentioned earlier that it was a battleship and it had been refurbed and some of the cannons had been taken out. It still had about 13 cannons on it. So the crew were like, well, let's get rid of the cannons, because they're really heavy. But for some unknown reason, Governor Schmaltz said, no, we're not getting rid of the cannons. We're not leaving this ship defenseless. We need the cannons. Another suggestion was, okay, we'll get everyone off the ship. There were a couple of longboats. This is the same with the Titanic, which we mentioned before. There were lifeboats, longboats, but there just wasn't enough for everyone on board. So it would have taken days basically to go right. However many people over the shore, come back, take a few more over, blah blah blah. It would have taken them days to do the whole thing. But shore was basically the desert, and also there were local people there that were quite dangerous. There was a fear that if they did that and the people were left on shore, they would be captured and enslaved. Then also it's the desert, so there could be animal attacks and stuff like that. So the idea was, look, we've all got to stick together. So Governor Schmaltz suggested that they should make, out of the debris and out of the ship, make a huge raft, big enough for everyone on board. And then what they could do is the ship, the longboats, the lifeboats, could then tow that raft to shore. So I think there's about 5 or 6 of them, these longboats. And that way everyone's together, everyone gets on shore together, nobody's left behind. And it sounds like a cracking idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Because it was the governor's idea, of course, everyone said, okay, let's do that then.
Did you get tiger sharks there, or?
There's definitely sharks. I don't know what type, but yeah, you get tigers, you get sharks. I'm sure you get Portuguese man of war there as well, jellyfish. So it's pretty treacherous waters. So that was agreed. Well, not really. People were told that's what was going to happen. So the construction of the raft began pretty much immediately. And at this stage, like, the sea was starting to get rough as well. There's lots of sort of summer storms around and things. So everyone's kind of going, look, the sooner we jib off here, like, the better. Let's just get going. Let's get cracking. So the crew and everyone involved basically just tore the ship to pieces, using sort of the masts and pulling bits off the side of the ship and everything. And they built a raft. And that is the photo that I sent you, the first one, which we'll put on the Facebook page, is what they constructed.
Yeah, that looks a mess.
Yeah, so it's so that's the Medusa raft. They put a sort of railing around the side, which is about 1 foot high, to stop people falling into the sea. The dimensions, so it's 66 feet by 23 feet. So it's 20 meters by 7 meters. So it's a decent size.
Yeah.
The people making it, the crew, they called it La Machine.
La Machine.
Yeah. So it's a hefty thing. So, but as you can see from the picture, it's pretty shit. As soon as it was constructed, like, a large part of it was underwater. I think the sort of water was sort of coming up the sides and stuff. So, like, the centre bit was all right, but the sides were kind of sort of underneath water before they'd even set off. So, out of the 400 odd people that were on the ship, 147 people were assigned to the raft, and then the rest would be on the boats that would tow the raft. So, I don't know, a bit of a pop quiz for you. Can you guess who were in the boats and who were on the raft?
The politicians and the nobles were in the boats.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Yeah, so the governor and his family and all the rest
Yeah.
of it, they were on the boats, and then all the other people were on the
Poor
raft.
people.
Yeah,
The Irish.
So they completed the raft by the 5th of July, and then the evacuation order was given. So by the time 40 people got onto the raft, it had already sunk by 2 foot. So, you basically still stood on it, but it's kind of like up to your knees or whatever, yeah. And then so they started to throw provisions off the raft to try and sort of keep it afloat. By the end, they had 6 tubs of wine. So it says tubs. They're French, aren't they? So it's 6 tubs, but I guess that's how it's stored, I suppose, on a ship. Not bottles, it says tubs. 2 tubs of water. So yeah, obviously the wine was more important. And a bag of soggy seawater biscuits. Yeah. So I mean, this is for 147 people. But I mean, I suppose they only thought it was going to be a sort of short journey. Yeah. By the time 100 people were on the raft, it was still sinking. And then a lot of people were kind of going, I'm not getting on this. So they were actually forced by gunpoint to get on the raft. Because that's, like, captain can't leave people behind on the boat.
Yeah, but it's like forced at gunpoint to get on the raft or stay behind and die anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Not
it.
much of a choice, is it?
Yeah, I think it was the captain, Captain Hugh. This was to kind of look after his own back. Eventually, there was a scuffle and a bit to do, but 17 people did actually manage to stay back on the Medusa rather than get on the raft.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened, but some people managed to convince the captain to go, yeah, fuck, no, this is a death trap. We'll take our chances. So they set off. Yeah, no bother. 30 minutes down the road, it'll be fine. It'll sort itself out. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Which way was the tide dragging them?
Right. Okay. Well, of course it went to shit because this is why we're talking about it. So the current started pulling the raft further out to sea.
Right.
All right. And, physics being physics, the raft being much bigger than the boats, it's the raft started pulling the boats out to sea as well.
Yeah.
So, as we said, the boat had all these sort of well-to-do people in, the governor and all the rest of it. So the order was given, this is absolutely horrific, by the governor himself to cut the ropes.
Shit.
So, I mean, to be fair, I did read that some people in the boats were protested over this, like, you can't do this. But ultimately, what the governor says goes. So the boats cut the ropes and basically just fucked off 147 people to their doom on a raft.
It's a difficult one because that's a shitty thing to do. But if they don't cut the ropes, do they all die?
Well, yeah, I think it's just one bad decision after another.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not so much cutting the ropes, but it for me it boils down to the initial Captain Hugh, like the
Shouldn't have been in
arrogance
that
of it.
position.
He shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. I mean, in fact, I'll tell you now. I mean, I was going to mention it earlier, but the French actually changed the law after this,
Right.
meaning that to be a ship captain, it has to be based on your experience, not just who you are, not your status.
Yeah.
Because of the complete and utter fuck ups that you made throughout. So yeah, all right, yeah, cutting the ropes. He kind of made that decision to save some people at least.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there's just a catalogue of errors, isn't it? So yeah, but it gets worse. So, so all these people like screaming on the raft, like, "What are you doing? Don't leave me alone!"
Yeah.
And as you've seen, as we've spoken about, the raft was just shit. By this point, the people on the raft are like up to sort of waist height water.
Yeah.
With their sort of feet just touching the ground, touching the raft, just so they've got sort of something to keep them up. They're being pounded by waves as well in the middle of the sea, like sort of the spray of the ocean. People getting sort of bounced around. Some people actually tied themselves to the little railing that I mentioned just to keep themselves on the sea. And then it's Africa as well, so the sun is just beating down on them. You're quite near the equator, so there's no shelter. It's just an open raft, no sunscreen. They're getting battered by the waves, getting battered by the sun, and they've just been cut loose by this guy. So the crew, the 147 people on board, did try and construct some sort of sail. I think because there was quite a few military people on there, there was sort of a guy. I did see his name, but I can't remember it now. He sort of took control and said, "Look, I'm in charge here. Let's do this." So they tried to sort of draft a sail, and then this chap who took control said, "Right, okay, we'll see if we can get a sail constructed. We'll have some food, so we're not starving." And what they did is they got some wine and those soggy biscuits I mentioned, and just mashed it into sort of a paste.
A whiny biscuit
A
paste.
whiny biscuit paste, yeah. But they ate all the biscuits after the first day. So all they've got left now is kind of wine. They didn't even have a compass. So, I mean, I don't know how true this is, right? I did see it, but it just sounds, it's horrible to say, but it just sounds really comical. So they didn't have a compass, but one crew member did have a compass. As he took it out of his pocket, he dropped it and it fell through the cracks of the raft, just like into the ocean.
It's like, do you know the film Airplane?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a bit like that. Well, wait till you see where we go, and maybe you'll change your mind.
Oh, okay.
So conditions are like horrific. It's like a death sentence, isn't it? So madness soon set in. People are sort of just jumping off the raft, going, "I'll just take my chances." Okay. Some people were just laying back and just floating off. But the problem is, these people that were floating off and jumping off the raft just getting eaten by sharks, because there's like literally sharks circling this raft. The raft itself, then it started to separate because it's poorly constructed. So people were getting caught between the planks of the raft. So people were being
crushed.
Either dragged down and drowned, or they'd be crushed. Their limbs would just be crushed, and broken leg or what have you. I mean, this is still the first day, by the way. This just happened in a day. So then the night rolled in, and obviously it's going pitch black because you're in the middle of the ocean. People are starting to go crazy, hallucinating, and all the rest of it. With all these huge waves throwing themselves, it's just crazy, absolute bonkers. So that first night, the very first night, 20 people died.
Yeah. Well, we've mentioned this in the podcast before. That's my biggest fear, is dark water.
Yeah. A lot of people.
I'd probably just want to die.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to survive through the night on black water.
Yeah, it's just horrific. I can't even imagine what this is like, because it's just so crazy. Like, it's just so awful. So the centre of the raft was probably the safest place to be, because this was still above water pretty much. Yeah. Obviously, the surrounding parts, the edges were kind of under. So people just wanted to get to the middle. So there was literally kind of people just throwing people about, battering people, people getting crushed. Everyone's just trying to get to the centre. So it's just utter chaos. There was a group of soldiers on board. They drank one of these tubs of wine, but it had been contaminated with seawater. Oh. So they just got really pissed and just went mad. And they started to try and cut up the raft with their swords and stuff. And anyone who challenged them, they'd just kill them.
Okay.
So they were only stopped by sort of other people on the raft sort of rallying together, and killing them. So it's
not the place to be fighting, is it?
No, it's like civil war on this tiny little raft. Like, everyone's fighting against each other and stuff. So before too long, this raft is just covered in dead bodies.
They should have been sent on a team building exercise before they.
Maybe. So by the third day, another 60 people had died.
Yeah.
So that's half the people in 3 days had died on this raft. I mean, some people were so hungry that they started to eat their sort of leather pouches and stuff just for a bit of substance. But there's loads of dead bodies lying around, so
Start
you can
munching them.
probably guess what happens next.
Yeah.
So on the third day, that's when the cannibalism started.
Fucking hell. But you would. I don't have any problem with that.
I mean, if it's you'd have to be pretty far down the line to kind of resort to that. So I mean, these people are desperate and stuff, aren't they? So
If they're already dead, I think it's all right.
yeah.
I'm towards the end of one of the newest Stephen King books about this old couple that eat people. It's a bit weird.
Oh, really? What's that called?
Holly. It's part of there was the Mr. Mercedes series. There were 3 books, like a trilogy, Mr. Mercedes, and it's like a spin-off from that.
Oh, right. Looking for a new book.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Not his best stuff, but it's good.
No. So by the 4th day, there were 30 people left on this raft. So most people were seriously ill or wounded. They'd been sort of battered by this raft, and there was a decision made by. I told you there was military on there, so there was some guy who kind of went, "Look, I'm in charge." So a decision was made that those that were seriously ill, who were going to die, they'd be put on half rations, so like a sip of wine and maybe some human meat, because otherwise the rest of them, they didn't know how long they were going to be out there. You can't. There's no point in feeding the people that are definitely going to die. After a little while, after about sort of half a day, they realised that even that wasn't going to be enough. So they started to throw the sick and the injured overboard. It's awful. So by the point there were 15 people left on this raft, everyone was kind of just getting paranoid.
Yeah, sitting staring at each other.
Yeah. Are they going to eat me or like? So, the decision was made like to throw all the weapons overboard, just so nobody had any weapons. That would just call a truce, no more fighting or anything like that. They were drinking their own piss at this point, and then they were left on the raft for a week more. When on the morning of the 17th of July, they finally, in the distance, saw a sail. And after 17 days on the raft, surviving on just sips of wine, they noticed that the Argus was in the distance. The Argus being one of the ships that set sail as part of the convoy. So the ship itself, it had not sort of been that slow that it was kind of still coming around. It had actually come out looking for the ship because it realised that the Medusa had gone missing.
Yeah, something
so
that.
So it was part of a sort of rescue mission. So they saw a ship and then they got rescued. 15 people got rescued from, 147?
Yeah.
Of those 15 people, 5 would go on to die after being rescued just because they were just in terrible condition. So
That's awful.
Yeah. So,
imagine you finally see a ship in the distance and it's Senegalese pirates.
I don't think you'd be asked. You've been drinking your own piss and eating your mate. Whatever, just take me in. So that's the raft of Medusa. So I mean, it's horrific. I mean, you can't even imagine it. It's just absolutely awful. Like you kind of can sort of see it in Hollywood mode in your brain, but in reality, it must have been just absolutely awful. So the aftermath then. So after all this had happened, 10 people out of 147 have been saved because of the actions.
This is the 147 on the raft. What happened to the people that were on the boats?
Well, okay, so the people on the boats were fine. They just
got
themselves to land. So Captain Hugh, he was court-martialed for his role in this.
That's good.
But he only got 3 years in prison.
Right.
Because of his status, because of who he knew. What he could have got was execution, given the laws at the time. So he sort of dodged a bullet there. Governor Schmaltz, the guy who ordered to cut the rope, escaped all blame. He'd spend 4 years as governor in Senegal. yeah, he was okay. The Medusa itself, so the ship, so that it was found actually. It was in a bit of a state because obviously it'd been sort of run ashore and the wind and the rain and ripped apart and all the rest of it. So the 17 people that remained on the boat, which I mentioned at the very start, only 3 of them survived.
Right.
There was actually one person, this is horrible, one person that died on the morning of being the rescue.
Got it.
So they were found later in the day, and he died. So yeah, so that's what happened after that. Now I did send you another picture, which we'll put on the Facebook page, which you can have a look at. And this is a painting. It's called the Raft of the Medusa. It's painted. The painter is Theodore Jericho. And he, after reading the story, so some of the survivors, they wrote their stories in newspapers, and I think someone wrote a book as well. He became obsessed with it, and he went around speaking to the survivors and getting interviews, and he eventually ended up painting that picture that you can see now. The chap who's pointing, so there's like there's a black guy on someone's shoulders, and if you look, there's a chap that's sort of pointing. So he's actually one of the survivors, and he posed for the painting. Yeah, so he's actually
the guy that's pointing.
Yeah. So got sort of brown hair, black hair.
Ah,
yeah. So you can have a look at that. The painting itself hangs in the Louvre in Paris. So yeah,
I've been there. I've probably looked at this painting.
You've probably seen it. Yeah, it's famous if you're into art and stuff. But it's a pretty haunting painting.
Yeah, there's the wee naked guy at the front.
Yeah. So that's the story of the Raft of the Medusa.
Wow.
So
I'm desperate to ask you, how the hell did you stumble across this?
I just don't know. There's loads of YouTube stuff on it, and
dangerous things.
Yeah, I don't really know. I just think...
mad, dangerous stories. Google. We've got listeners.
So that's yes. This is a very dangerous voyage.
It was a really interesting story. I've enjoyed that. I've learned something. But yeah, that's I never knew. I thought Medusa was some woman that had like snakes with hair or something.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Greek mythology.
But I suppose they called ships after things like that, didn't they? So
yeah, I don't think Medusa was. Didn't Hercules kill Medusa?
I don't know.
Was it Hercules? Because you couldn't. She turned you to stone if you looked at her.
That was it. Yeah.
And then some warrior used a shield to look at her reflection and cut her head off. I'm not sure if it's Hercules.
That was very clever.
Yeah. Let us know. Email in. What are do the things?
Oh yeah. Again, if you want to follow us, we've got a Facebook page, The Most Dangerous Podcast. You can email us, jamesandfraserpod@gmail.com. You can donate money for us to get a better email address. We're on TikTok as well, The Most Dangerous Podcast. I tend to put little clips on there and stuff like that.
We're coming to Twitter soon.
Yes, yeah.
As soon as I can be back.
Yeah, James is just trying to get round to sitting and logging in to Twitter.
Yeah, I'll do it. I will do it. Don't put pressure on me.
Next time he's got a free, 5 minutes.
we are coming. Yeah, it will be done.
Facebook page is growing, actually. I've been putting a lot more content on it. We're getting a lot more followers.
Good.
Interactions. We had that chap today that was basically spamming us. It was nice to get a message, though. Yeah.
The only messages we get is like we've infringed copyright.
Do you know what's funny? The spammers block me.
So if you do listen, please do drop us a line. It does mean a lot to us, and obviously your support means a lot. And like the podcast, give us a review. It does help because it pushes up the leaderboard, well, not leaderboard, the rankings or whatever, and just it means that more people get to listen to us and they might like it as well. So yeah, do all that stuff. It's good.
Definitely. We're a little away from the leaderboard, but
it just gets more noticed.
It does, yeah. Helps with the rankings and everything. So tell your friends.
Indeed. Right, that's me. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was really interesting. Again, like I keep saying, we sort of give you these little snippets. I want to learn more about it.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
think.
much more to this. I mean, there's only so much we can fit into a podcast. But yeah, if you're interested, go and read around it. It's crazy.
See, us ignorant British think that if there isn't a Hollywood movie or a British-made movie about it, it doesn't exist. There could be 20 French films about this
Probably is.
that
Yeah,
are
I think
being made in French and never sort of made it to British shores. So
I think it's quite a big thing in French history. I think it was a bit of an embarrassment, to be honest, as well. Like at the time.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
So no, I'd like to see a sort of visualization of it. I think that'd be interesting.
Oof, that'd be dark.
Yeah.
Righto, that's me. I'm done. Gonna go and rest my ribs.
I appreciate your time, James, and yeah, it's now my job again to come up with something like that. Jeez.
Yeah, and we will see you next week
See you then.
on the Most Dangerous Podcast. Take care.
Take care. See you now, James. Bye bye.